Frank Reich wants to win this week more than most weeks. Just about any other game on the schedule doesn't mean as much to him as this one does. We know that. We talked about it yesterday. We know it. He told us it. Here's Frank Reich earlier this week on This Week meaning more because the Colts fired him.
In this particular case, yeah, it always means a little bit more, but it's not, for me, it's not more. For some people, when that happens, it means more in a vengeful way. I don't look at it like that. I've never looked at it, motivated, yes. Highly motivated, yes. But it's more, it's just a different perspective. It's a different perspective, but it's both can be true. It's just another game, but it also, you understand it's a different dynamic. I think both of those things can be true.
I think he's got a little vengefulness in him, vengeance in him. He's just not going to admit it. That's fine. It means more. But also from an X's and O's standpoint, right? You can go back. Yesterday we talked about it on the show, how obviously the anger from him exists. But familiarity with a team is a gift and a curse, right? Knowing everything there is to know about the other team or thinking they know everything there is to know about you is a gift and a curse. You can easily use it as insider knowledge to help you out, right? You can easily use, hey, this cornerback loves biting on the double move. I know that because I tried to coach it out of him for 5 years. Like, that is insider knowledge. That helps. But you can also easily get caught way too deep in it. You start getting to they know that I like to do this on third down, so I'll do that on third down. But they'll assume that I'll counter with that on third down, so I'll be 2 steps ahead of them by doing this other thing on third down. But they know that I like to use the other thing when they think I'm going to use that thing, so I'll counter that counter with this counter to their counter, and by the end, you're way too deep, and now the play clock just expired. They don't know that I know. They know that I know that they know that we always on third down did this.
But shouldn't there be a factor to that now that Frank Reich's no longer with the offense or is no longer calling the plays?
Ding, 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 ding. Graham hits on it perfectly.
Or are you smarter than a sports producer?
I think that actually gives the advantage to Frank Reich. Frank Reich isn't calling the offensive plays. Thomas Brown is. So the Panthers get to benefit from Frank Reich knowing the ins and outs of the individual players on the Colts defense, even if he doesn't know all of their scheme. But the Colts really don't get to benefit from knowing how Frank Reich likes to call a game because he's not calling a game. Granted, I'm sure he has some influence over Thomas Brown, but do you really want to bet any of your decision-making on, hey, I bet he has influence? I'll tell you how I'd handle it. If I were the Colts, if I were Frank Reich, I would have on Monday, or as early as you start prepping your actual game plan and play sheet, I would get together with Thomas Brown and tell him all of the basics that I know about the players on the Colts defense, as early as I could in the week. Monday morning, probably. And then I'd let Thomas Brown do what he wants with that. Because I wouldn't want to bog him down in details, right? I wouldn't want to be in the meeting room all week with every play. Oh, yeah. I forgot to tell you. Shaquille Leonard, what he loves to do is bait you into throwing the deep post as he's playing Tampa 2. Next play. Oh, right. What I didn't tell you was this guy loves to – no. Right? Monday morning, set aside an hour. Have your notebook in front of you. Call Thomas Brown in and say, all right, Thomas, DeForest Buckner, absolute beast, monster, huge. He'll get greedy chasing a sack on third and medium. You can get him with a draw. Okay, take a note. What else you got? Quiddy Pay, good, but he, and I'm making these up. He gets lazy on contain when the ball goes the other way. Might be susceptible to a reverse or a counter action or a keeper. Again, do with this what you will, Thomas Brown. You're the play caller, but I want you to have the benefit of the fact that I coached these guys for 5 years. I'm not sure the Colts get any of that advantage over Frank Reich now that he's not the play caller. If he was, then guess what would happen? You would have had, anyone on that offense, Michael Pittman, any of the offensive line, go to the defense and say, hey, man, you can predict Coach Reich. I don't know if the other scouts would notice, but when you are in practice and games with him every year for years, you start to pick up on the tendencies. Right? If he runs it twice, he's almost always going play action boot. Like little things like that, but that doesn't apply anymore. Now that's all just information they have stored in their brain that is worthless because you don't know what Thomas Brown does. Thomas Brown, as far as being a play caller in the NFL, there is one game of tape out there, and it was last week against Houston. And Houston's defense is nothing like the Colts' defense. So even that isn't apples to apples, right? It's kumquats to bananas. It's not even apples to oranges. They're different shapes, right? It's, I don't know, apples to roofing shingles. It's really different. So I'm looking at this and saying the Colts don't have a ton of insider information on the Panthers. The Panthers do have kind of a double agent on the Colts, but really just on individual tendencies. It's not on scheme or anything like that because obviously they changed it since Frank Reich left.
And outside, going back to Frank Reich, outside the X's and O talk, don't you think it comes back to that? I mean, you even mentioned that. Isn't this more of a game of let's go out there and win this for our coach?
Win this one for me.
And especially for the Carolina Panthers, I want to say there's some sort of swagger about them now that they finally have gotten the winless streak off their shoulders.
They are no longer defeated.
Yeah, they're no longer defeated.
No, I agree.
I feel like this game comes at a perfect time, and there's plenty of motivational factors for it.
It's, to me, the biggest motivation is let's win this one for coach.
Let's win it for Frankie.
Like, this is one where after the game, if things go well, you win the game. This is one where Bryce Young grabs a game ball and interrupts Coach Frank Reich during the post-game speech where he's doing the little and win, whatever his little chant there is at the end. And Bryce goes, Coach, this one's for you. And he hands him the game ball, right? And then you get it painted up and you say, revenge game and all those sorts of things. Because it does mean more. It is motivational. It is competitive. Frank Reich is a former athlete, right? This isn't a guy that came up from ball boy to analytics nerd to assistant coach to coordinator to head coach. This is a guy that was with Boomer Esiason at Maryland, being roommates and on the same Maryland team. I assume they competed in everything. Then he went to the NFL, backup quarterbacks always fighting for their chance. The first quarterback in Carolina Panthers history. And on top of that, he now has the opportunity to go back and show the Colts what a mistake they made. Yeah. Use every bit of insider information you have, Coach.